friends, and welcome back to the last video of my October Eve 2023 series. We are going out with a bang today because this video is part of a Sweet November Stamps YouTube hop celebrating their new fall release. So I will be combining this Autumn Cottage stamp set and then the Pick of the Patch one that I just showed you to make a really fun and very dimensional slimline scene, even though it will be a one-layer card. So the details for the hop, while I'm getting everything stamped, there are 8 videos. All you have to do is go to each video. All of the links and details are down below. You subscribe, like, and comment, and there will be a winner chosen next week for the whole release. You win all 13 stamp sets. So you have until Wednesday, October 4th to hop all the way through. And since it's only 8 videos this time, I think that's pretty fair. But yeah, all the other details are down below, so go check those out in the description, and I'll have all of the products and Copic colors that I use down there as well. But I really want to talk to you about the stamping that's going on. So when I was looking at this stamp set, the thing that caught my eye were all of the different sizes of the pumpkins in this one, as well as the houses and the pumpkins in the Autumn Cottage set. The huge range of sizing really lets you push that dimensional feel. So what I decided to do was stamp one of the very large pumpkins that's by itself first, all the way at the bottom. Then my little girl sitting on the pumpkin is in the middle. And I picked, you can see I have a bigger house and a smaller house option. And if you pick the bigger house, it's beautiful and it fits super nicely, but it would create one scene where she's like right there, right? The house is right there, she's right there, that pumpkin's right there, everything looks tight and close. But by switching it and picking the much smaller house, we're really pushing that house all the way into the background. And then we also have these even smaller houses on the hill that we're going to add even higher up on the card. Because with a slimline, you really get to play, you really get to play with that height, letting you push all of those things so far back in the distance. So instead of one tight, close little scene, now we have this whole world that we've created, right? This whole little village. So I just thought it was really cool to be able to play with that extra dimension and talk about adding in that depth and that extra perspective that sometimes we don't always get to do. I love the scene building stamp sets from Sweet November Stamps because Amy is always very intentional about those kinds of elements. She loves to create that extra layer of depth in her scenes. And it's something that I don't always find natural for myself to do. But with this set specifically, it came really easily. So I really wanted to share and show that with you. I know scene building isn't for everyone, and this is really in depth and took a lot of coloring. But if you're someone who does love scene building or wants to practice your coloring, these are obviously an amazing option. So yeah, I'm coloring in my sky. I've been not great about coloring clouds in the past, and I was a little nervous, but I figured with the sky being such a small space up there at the top that I would try, and I like how they came out. I just used 3 light blues. I skipped over the original green color I put down for the grass because I did not like it. It looked very spring. And it's pretty, but it's not what I was going for. So we're going to end up covering all of this with these YG markers instead to get more of that olive undertone kind of fall feeling. And then I'll use the new colors again for the bottom section, and you'll get to see how everything kind of works together. But this is also a good thing to show. I wanted to leave it in and kind of explain it because even like 4 years into Copic coloring, and I have the color charts and I have all the things. I still don't have all the markers, but I still don't always pick the right color. And there isn't a right or wrong color in like terms of the world. I just mean sometimes the color combination I end up using doesn't give me the effect I want, but it doesn't mean that you have to start over or, that it can't be fixed. These markers do layer so well, and you can kind of glaze or tone them if you want to. So I really wanted to share that, like, I could take that very springy, fresh kind of green and turn it into a little bit more of a unsaturated fall olivey green really easily. So I also really wanted to push the fall feelings with this card by using all of these different oranges and yellows. So I have like a more orange combination. We're going to go with another like more yellowy, kind of like burnt brown. You know those trees that go like yellow brown? I really wanted to include some of those as well. And then again, all of the houses in the little village are going to kind of have some warm brown and like warm cream tones, because it just all adds to that cozy fall feeling, right? I just tried to stick with a color scheme that would kind of lend itself to that warm, cozy fall feeling, and also make it look like it was a cohesive little village and not just like random houses stuck out there. So yeah, this one was definitely a lot of fun to color, although I have to be honest with you, when I sat down to knock it out, I was like, oh, I'm just going to do something really simple, like for the hop. And this card ended up taking an hour and a half. So it is definitely sped up. But I love the result. I think it's definitely worth the time investment, and the whole process I enjoyed. There wasn't any point where I was like, oh man, I wish this was done already. Like that thought never occurred to me. And so I think it's important to share with you guys though, that these kind of cards definitely can take a good chunk of time. If anybody has ever hung out with Amy when she's coloring live, her minimum time that she allots herself is 2 hours. And granted, that's with answering questions and reading comments. But it's on the occasion we go to like 2.5, sometimes close to 3 hours. And so that always makes me feel a lot better about my 2 hour card, 1.5 hour cards. So if you have not checked out any of Amy's lives, she's the illustrator and part owner for Sweet November Stamps with her amazing sister T. And she has a Facebook page called Adventures in Coloring with Amy. I'll link it down below. And during release weekend, she does 2 live colorings a day. But normally on Saturdays, she does color live throughout the year. They're super fun. I've learned so much from her. I probably would have never started Copic coloring if I hadn't found Amy. So I just want to share that, if you are interested in Copic coloring or you're trying to learn some new skills, it doesn't even have to be for full scenes. Just seeing different color combinations and learning different tricks from her is like a game changer. So keep that in mind. I added some red into that last little bush that we created because I just thought there was a lot of yellow and orange going on already. And even for my color choice for the little rock wall, I went with warm gray markers instead of cool gray. Again, just trying to keep that really warm toned color scheme over the whole thing. I really wanted it to feel cohesive. So now for the bottom part of the grass, I'm going to do it in a couple chunks. And you can see I went through and laid in my lightest YG marker first, and then kind of went in with my medium and then my dark, and then worked my way back up. That's not usually the way that I color. I usually go darkest to lightest, but for blending out these bigger areas, I think that having at least that first light layer marked down first helps everything else to blend a lot nicer. It's something that I'm definitely trying to kind of push myself to do when it comes to my sky and my grass. For my other design elements and like my people, I think I'm doing okay blending without that. But I do think it has been kind of helping to elevate my larger design features, like the ground and the sky. Right, same thing here, just creating that wash of color kind of over that whole grassy area, and then going in with my darkest to start laying in those shadows and pulling that color over. I'm leaving the bottom mostly simple so that I can add my sentiments there. And you can see I'm kind of playing back and forth with some of the less saturated YGs in those 90s, but also bringing in some of the lighter ones, the 25 and 3, that have a lot more of that like green to them. Like I don't know, they look more green and less yellowy. But I love the way that they layer, and again, how you can kind of use one to glaze over the other and kind of tone it to the shade that you're looking for. So I went back in one last time with that lightest shade just to help kind of melt everything together. And that little mouse that's like tucked in between the girl and the pumpkin is just so cute. The stamp set comes with a bunch of those little mice, and I think they would make like a super sweet little card all on their own. I'm going to have to figure that out at some point because they're just too cute. I colored in all of these pumpkin blossoms, and then I realized that there's also one in her hair. So we'll bring these colors all back shortly. I probably could have made them a little bit brighter even. The pumpkin flowers we always get in our yard are like super, super bright. Sometimes they're a little more yellowy, sometimes they're a little more orange. But I thought, I don't know, that it was still pretty fun. And then to change it up, I did bring in some regular G markers for the leaves on the pumpkin because I wanted them to stand out. And in real life, all of our pumpkin leaves are like super bold green. But here I tried to go for something that was still a little more muted. Again, just to kind of fit in with that fall feeling. So you can always manipulate your colors for something like this, even though it's like a real thing. It doesn't have to match the way that it would in nature. You can kind of tweak it and make it work. I saw one of the girls on the team use this same stamp, and she made those flowers pink. And I was like, man, if we could live in a world where there's pink pumpkins with pink flowers, that would be pretty cool. So for my pumpkins, I'm using the same kind of my go-to coloring technique, but I skipped over adding in kind of the oval marks that I normally do. I just wanted these to look a little less cutesy and a little more realistic, if that makes sense. A little less stylized, I guess. So I'm adding in all of my shading in the ribs in between each kind of section of the pumpkin, and then bringing down the shadow from the top and the bottom, leaving the center sections lighter, and then just kind of going back and forth. For something like this that I want to look really vibrant, I sometimes do 2 layers like I showed you there. That second one really just helps to build that contrast and really define the shapes. There you can see I colored in the blossom in her hair, and then I used some of those same warm gray markers to shade in this little sweet mouse. He's kind of just like a bonus. Like, I feel like you don't really see him at first, but like the more you study the card, then you kind of find him tucked in there. And I just love that he's like this little hidden, like, where's Waldo moment. Super cute. I use the same pumpkin shades for all 3 pumpkins. I just wanted to go for a more cohesive look with this instead of adding in like a different tone or, you know, making like a white pumpkin or something, even though I do love those in real life. Definitely creating a heavier shadow under her dress where she's sitting on that larger pumpkin. So overall, there's going to be a lot less highlight on this one. And that's okay, because that kind of variation will still help all 3 of them stand out so they don't just look copy and pasted. Yeah, and then for her hair, I decided to bring in some more dark browns just to kind of balance out the roofs and everything at the top of the card. So I went in with some dark E markers, E59, E49, and then E57. And I think I even brought in, yeah, there we go, a 35 for a highlight. That did kind of wash out the darker colors a little bit, so I went back in with my darker marker one more time just to bump up that texture again and start creating, like emphasizing the artist's drawn lines. I went with a Caucasian skin tone for this one, with my E04, a little hint of E13, blended that out with the E11, and then used my E00 right on the highlight of her face and gave her a little bit of blush. I thought about making her legs skin tone, but I decided at this point in fall she would probably have on little tights underneath her dress. So I went with some warm grays for that, and then use the same browns from her hair for her boots, just again to kind of have a limited, I know there's a lot of colors going on here, so saying the words limited palette feels like it's not the right fit, but I still wanted to use the same kind of colors over and over again as much as I could. To make her kind of stand out, I went with some really dark reds for her dress, going in with the R89 and then jumping to the R30 family. And I don't usually stick with the 30s all the way through. I usually like add in a 20 here or there, but I really love the undertone of these, especially for fall. So I went R89, R39, 37, and then use the 35 for just a little bit of extra highlight, which is, I think, really helps to bring all of this together. I did decide to do my background first and then my character at the end. If that feels really daunting, you can always swap it and start with your main features or the items closest to you and then work your way back. Don't be afraid to kind of play with that. I stamped my sentiment with Catherine Pooler Cranberry Fizz ink, again to tie in with the red on her dress, and I love how that brings it together. And I added this to a natural craft, yeah, there we go, a craft cardstock, after trimming it out with my Pink and Maine slimline die, and that brings this all together. So make sure again that you checked out in the description for all the information on the hop today. I wish you guys the best of luck. Thank you so much to everyone who made it all the way through the October Eve series. If you have any other requests for Halloween-ish cards, spooky cards, fall cards from now through the rest of October, please leave me some ideas in the comments because the October fun is not over yet. But yeah, I hope that you guys have an amazing weekend, and until next time, happy crafting.